Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Navy, former commander of the 155th Separate Marine Brigade, hero of Russia Major General Mikhail Gudkov died in the Kursk region. This was reported on his Telegram channel by the governor of Primorsky Krai Oleg Katsymyako. The head of the region added that Mikhail Gudkov died while performing his duty as an officer together with his fellow soldiers. Katsymyako personally knew the general, noting that he was a strong-willed warrior. At the same time, having become Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Navy, Gudkov did not stop visiting the Marines' positions. According to the governor, his loyal comrade officer Nariman Shikalev died along with Gudkov. According to AIF Primorai, the officers were killed in a missile attack by the Ukrainian armed forces on the field headquarters on July 1. The Russian Defense Ministry has not yet officially confirmed this information. Until the spring of 2025, Gudkov was the commander of the 155th Marine Brigade of the Pacific Fleet of the Russian Federation, responsible, in particular, for the massacre in Bucha. Gudkov had received awards for bravery in military action against Ukraine and been accused by Kiev of war crimes. Russian President Vladimir Putin appointed him Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Navy in March, according to a statement on the Kremlin's website. Gudkov had led a Marine Brigade of Russia's Pacific Fleet, which had been fighting in Kursk. Parts of Kursk were seized by Ukrainian forces in a surprise offensive in August 2024 before Russia said earlier this year it had driven them out. The news of the death comes after Ukraine summoned the acting U.S. envoy to Kiev to warn the Trump administration that any delay or procrastination in supplying the war-hit nation with weapons will only benefit Russia. The U.S. has blocked a number of planned shipments to Ukraine that included Patriot air defense missiles and precision-guided artillery, warning that its own domestic stockpiles were running low but said that robust options for Kiev were still lined up. Ukraine has complained that this pause in military aid has allowed Russian forces to advance further inside Ukrainian territory.
As reported recently, drones of the Security Service of Ukraine successfully attacked the Kirovsk airfield in annexed Crimea, which has been part of the flight test center since the Soviet period. During Russia's war against Ukraine, helicopters were transferred here from the Dzhankoy airfield, and recently concrete shelters for aircraft began to be built at the Kirovsk airfield, which indicates serious intentions to use it. Recall drones operated by the Security Service of Ukraine destroyed Mi-8, Mi-26 and Mi-28 attack helicopters and a Pantsir S-1 self-propelled anti-aircraft missile and gun system at the Kirovsk airfield. NASA firm's satellites recorded multiple fires in the western and eastern parts of the airfield, as well as near the runway in areas where aircraft are parked. After the fire, satellite images recorded traces of burns on the ground over an area of about 1 square kilometer. The Kirovsk airfield was built after World War II and was used as a base for fighter aircraft. Since 1961, aircraft testing has been conducted here, after the fighter regiment was disbanded in 1979. The airfield was completely transferred to the 3rd Scientific Testing Directorate of the State Research Institute of the Air Force, the flight testing service for anti-submarine defense aviation systems. The 3rd Directorate included, among other things, the Meganom and Chowder testing grounds. Tests of the Navy's aviation equipment were conducted, as well as tests of all aviation rescue systems, including parachute systems of decent spacecraft. The airfield was allocated a testing ground in the Black Sea near Cape Chowder and Feodosia Bay for testing anti-submarine systems. In February 1992, the Directorate came under the jurisdiction of Ukraine, and the 168th Flight Test Complex of the Ukrainian Air Force was formed on its base. After the annexation of Crimea, the airfield is subordinate to the State Flight Test Center of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, named after Chkalov. The Russian military began using the Kirovskoy immediately after the capture of Crimea. The Kirovsk airfield has a concrete strip 3 kilometers long and 54 meters wide, as well as a reserve dirt strip 2.2 kilometers long. It runs parallel to the main one. These parameters correspond to a first-class airfield. Such a strip can be used by almost all Russian fighter bombers and attack aircraft, as well as military transport aircraft. The Russian Federation used the Kirovskoy airfield, among other things, to practice elements of a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. During the first 2 years of the full-scale war, nothing is known about the use of the Kirovsk airfield. In April 2024, after the Ukrainian armed forces successfully struck the Dzhankoy airfield, some of the helicopters from there were transferred to the Kirovsk airfield. In June of this year, OSINT analyst Def Mon wrote on the social network X that Russia had begun constructing shelters for aircraft at airfields in Crimea, including the Kirovsk airfield. The reserve lieutenant colonel of the Ukrainian armed forces then commented to Krim.Reli that Ukraine has a sufficient arsenal of weapons to destroy not only light hangars at Crimean airfields, but also concrete structures designed to protect military aircraft and helicopters. The subsequent attack on the airfield proved that this was indeed the case. The Ukrainian strike may have destroyed plans to use this airfield or postpone them indefinitely. Now the airfield is temporarily unprotected and its infrastructure is partially destroyed. Russia tried to attack the city of Pivden in the Odessa region using experimental naval drones. However, the drones exploded while still in Russian territorial waters, said Kirilo Budanov, chief of the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine. At the beginning of June, they attempted to use experimental models of naval drones, but they did not achieve any results. The drones detonated in their own waters and did not even reach our territorial waters, Budanov said. According to him, the drones were heading toward the city of Pivden, but they met with failure. Naval drones have played an important role in countering Russian military ships, especially in the Black Sea area and near Crimea. They can carry explosives and operate over long distances. This allowed our forces to strike targets deep in enemy territory without risking personnel. Operations targeting Russian vessels near Sevastopol have also become well known. Due to these operations, Russia was compelled to adjust its tactics in the Black Sea and scale back fleet activity near Ukraine's coast. While Moscow has showcased several unmanned surface vessels at exhibitions, none of them have yet demonstrated combat effectiveness. Russian defense industry officials had previously revealed several naval drone designs during the FLOT 2024 Maritime Defense Exhibition. Among the models shown were the Orkan, Bek 1000 and Vizir unmanned boats. However, there have been no confirmed reports of these platforms being used in actual combat. Ukraine, by contrast, has been credited with pioneering the effective use of maritime drones in the Black Sea, including attacks on Russian naval targets and logistics infrastructure in occupied Crimea. Budanov also addressed the scale of Russian drone attacks on Ukraine, specifically the use of aerial drones in massed salvos. While Russia is not capable of sustaining daily strikes involving hundreds of drones, Budanov acknowledged that periodic waves of 450 to 500 unmanned aerial vehicles are technically possible. They can realistically launch up to 500 drones in a single salvo, he said, responding to a journalist's question. But they can't do this every day. The war has seen both sides invest heavily in unmanned systems. But Ukraine has managed to field operational platforms with proven results on land, at sea, and in the air. Russia's efforts, while extensive on paper, have struggled with field performance and reliability, particularly in the case of naval drones. In particular, to intercept Ukrainian maritime drones, the Black Sea Fleet Command initiated the development of a drone carrier for FPV drones to search for and destroy surface targets.